Hello, my name is Jonathan Jobin, and I am a cancer survivor. Chemotherapy was an incredibly difficult trial in my life. So difficult that at one time I had to take as many as 10 different prescription drugs. In my hand, I have just 4 alone, which, by the way, I was able to keep down to 4 drugs, only prescription, with the use of cannabis. Cannabis, colloquially known as marijuana, is a substance considered illegal by the US government. Most people here are familiar with that. It is what's considered a Schedule 1 drug, meaning it has a high potential for abuse as well as no accepted medical use. Now, most people are familiar with the illegality of cannabis. But I have a question. Did you know that the US government has a patent on one of the primary compounds in cannabis? Yes, patent number 6630507. This is a patent on the compound cannabidiol as a neuroprotectant. That means the US government has shown that one of the compounds inside of cannabis can be used to treat diseases such as Parkinson's and Alzheimer's. Now, why is it the US government has a substance that they deem illegal with no accepted medical value, but at the same time, one of the compounds in it, their patent admits the fact that it works? This seems a little bit ironic. With that being said, I am here today to discuss with you, to persuade you that we need to not only reschedule cannabis, but also completely eliminate prohibition. I myself have researched the topic for this speech, and I am also a cancer survivor who can attest to the positive effects of cannabis. But I am not going to do that today. Today, we are going to focus on the benefits to the economy and health. With that being said, did you know that prior to the Marijuana Tax Act of 1937, cannabis was widely used as a medicine for hundreds, if not thousands of years? You could go down to a local drugstore in the US and purchase cannabis oil. Now, with that being said, this brings us to the present day. Back in 2016, Alicia Wallace of The Cannabis writes a scathing article in regards to the US government's policy on cannabis when it relates to their patent number 6630507. By stating in law that cannabis is a Schedule 1 substance, we are unfairly grouping it together with harmful substances that have no medicinal value, such as heroin, ecstasy, and LSD. Now, we have already shown that the US government has a patent that proves the medical use of cannabis, at least for one area. With that being said, I am proposing that we schedule cannabis down to Schedule 2. Many narcotics that you use as prescriptions are already Schedule 2, but they're classified that way because they have a high potential for abuse, but they also present medicinal value. Now, with that being said, one of the issues in regards to Schedule 1 that we can change with Schedule 2 is government-funded research. Due to the fact that cannabis is Schedule 1, the US government will fund no research into its effects, whether positive or negative. By the US government adopting a new age logic and thought pattern, we can reschedule cannabis to Schedule 2 so that not only can people be potentially given the opportunity to use it medicinally, but also the US government itself can fund research into much of the anecdotal evidence that we have encountered over the past 20 years. Medical and illegal cannabis not only helps sick people, but it also helps our economy and jobs, as well as criminal issues in regards to the country. Time Magazine's Ian Grillo, back in 2015, wrote an article in regards to how the Mexican drug cartels are shipping less and less cannabis to the US every year. In 2011, it was 2.5 million pounds. That went down to 1.9 million pounds in 2014. The fact of the matter is, Americans do not want to purchase an inferior product that they know is funding crime, terror, and violence. So they would prefer to purchase it locally. So the legal drug trade, just from the legalization of California and Colorado, is already making a dent inside of the finances for the drug cartels. So it stands to reason that if we were to completely legalize it, we could potentially all but remove a resource for income for the cartels. With that being said, another thing that we need to look at is the tax benefits in regards to cannabis. Gavin Elkins of the Tax Foundation has shown in 2016 that tax estimates from Colorado and Washington were far underestimated. They have brought in way more tax revenue than originally intended. In fact, according to the Tax Foundation, a mature cannabis industry would generate as much as $2.8 billion in tax revenue for federal, state, and local governments, with at least $7 billion going directly to the federal revenues. This doesn't seem like that bad of a problem, considering the U.S. has so many issues balancing its own budget. We have a perfectly good revenue source that we could access for the entire country instead of allowing it to be money that's only going towards illegal activity. The prohibitionist side of cannabis legalization also has their own points, hence why we have not legalized cannabis. Mark Anderson and Daniel Reese drew from Mark Kleinman's drug policy expert idea in regards to the worst case scenario in play for if cannabis were to be completely legalized. His three primary reasons were it would cause more heavy drinking, carnage on the roads, and more minors using. It is true, Americans and politicians alike don't want to allow for such a thing to happen. And that's fine. Nobody wants to make the world a worse place. However, in Mark Anderson's The Legalization of Recreational Marijuana, How Likely is the Worst Case Scenario, data presented outright contradicts Kleinman's ideas. Violent alcohol abuse, and abuse of hard drugs all declined in Colorado and Washington after legalizing recreational marijuana. Drug use by minors was down in the early 2000s in states that had access to medicinal marijuana. Now, there was a slight uptick in operating while intoxicated charges, which is the charges one would get for operating while under the influence of drugs. That is to be expected. However, it was followed by a drop in the number of DUIs and traffic fatalities related to alcohol. When you look at all of that, in conclusion, when you look at all of the facts, the numbers support legalization of not only ending prohibition, but scheduling cannabis to Schedule II. The positives simply outweigh the negatives. It is time for the U.S. government to evolve its stance on cannabis by rescheduling it to Schedule II and regulating it like tobacco and alcohol. I would like everyone here to try your best at any given time to vote for pro-cannabis legislation in states where it is allowed, or even support referendums in states that can do this. Thank you.